Our lesson for today is titled Finding Truth in Our Lives Through Humility. According to St. Paul, people are wise when they are humble, and they are humble when they are wise, and that a true estimate of ourselves is to recognize our nothingness. In its most profound meaning, humility belongs to Jesus, the truth. A genuinely humble person lives according to the truth, and God punishes pride because it is untruth. It is a lie. By humbling oneself, a human being comes closer to the truth, which is God Himself. According to the reasoning of St. Paul, the one thing that I have not received, that is completely mine, is sin, whose source is in me and cannot ever be in God. When Jesus says, "Without me, you can do nothing," it means that a true estimate of ourselves is to recognize our nothingness. When we examine ourselves and discover the truth, that we are radically proud, which is our fault and not God's, because we have misused our freedom, that is indeed humility. St. Angela of Fiorno, who urged her sisters to enter the inner cell of our being in order to recognize our nothingness, not to close ourselves in, giving in to self-centeredness and narcissism, but to open up to others, where we no longer see the defects in our neighbors. The Virgin Mary is the unsurpassed model of humility, of truth. This is evident in her canticle, the Magnificat. Those are the words that she speaks to Elizabeth when she visits. These do not speak about her humility, but her humble state, the humility of the Mother of God, which didn't even exalt herself above the humblest creature, is indeed a masterpiece of God's grace. Those truly humble don't believe they are humble, and people who think they are humble are not. Humility also entails being humiliated. Christ was humbled and humiliated on the cross. We experience a part of that humbleness and humiliation with the Eucharist. Our humility is real when we accept reproofs, corrections, criticism, and humiliations. When others reproach us, knowing our defects, they help us remain humble. On the other hand, vainglory is condemned by Jesus, who said, "How can you believe when you receive glory from one another, and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God?" Vainglory can transform even our striving for humility into an act of pride. With grace, we can come out victorious even from this terrible battle. Speaking of the thorn in the flesh of St. Paul, he said that all have them. It could be a defect, an illness, a weakness, a powerlessness, a persisting, humiliating temptation, or even an unpleasant person in their life. They all speak about our frailty and demolish our self-control completely. Humility is also important for the proper functioning of the community life and for the building up of a church. Within each of our lives, St. Paul says we each have an illness, a weakness, a humiliation, or perhaps an unpleasant person. Some of us, like myself, have multiple illnesses, which led us to great humiliation quite often. Two of my diseases, the blindness, which causes my eyes to be so red like this, to make me look always like a drug addict, and the CRPS, chronic regional pain syndrome. That has a one really fun little symptom: spasticity of muscles. Without warning, I can go rigid, cramping from the muscles within my toes all the way up to the muscles in my scalp. This morning when it happened, Claudie, the golden cat, was lying in my side, and he felt me start to arch, going into it, and he clamped himself into me, and I felt him riding my writhing. That meant so much to me. He knew, Mommy hurt, I ride with her, I be with her. He's done this now a couple of times. That is so humiliating, but so loving, that my cat understands and knows my pain. My other cat, the dark one, Spade, he understands that I can't come to him to give him his medicine. How many of you have pets, dogs or cats, that will come to you for them to take their medicine? That is my Spade. My beautiful, clever cats know how sick I am. The other humiliation is with the spasticity. When I stand, my body will go rigid, from the legs to the core to the head. I know to grab a quick bite of breath, because the muscles can stay rigid as long as there's oxygenation, and then I will collapse to the floor. The quick giggle is that I'm usually on my way to toilet when it occurs. The spasticity starts in the legs and goes upwards, but when it releases from the core simultaneously outwards. Think about it. Yep. Humiliation is the word of the day. The Lord and I have lots of talks, but I know He loves me, and He gives me these challenges so I can find new and interesting ways of overcoming them. That is my life. Peace be with you.